The needle dances on the empty line above a cracked asphalt of Highway 9. We pulled into a station parched and gray, watching the heavy clouds consume the day. You leaned your head against the rusted pump while silence sat between us like a lump. The weight of what we know but never say pulled at our shadows in a cruel display. The ticking engine cools beneath the hood. We understood the things we understood. That fragile frame of yours is wearing thin against the gale that's howling from within. The debt we owe to time is coming due, but I am anchored here in front of you. The gasoline fumes swirl in biting air, defining every strand of silver hair. When the final curtain starts its slow descent, we'll measure out exactly what we spent, beyond the fear that grips the shivering bone. To travelers who refuse to go alone, the bond is forged beneath her crushing hand of forces that we barely understand. A light that glows when every fuse is blown, the greatest kindness that we've ever known. Tonight the stadium is filled with ghosts, and we are just the most reluctant host. The feedback screams across the empty stage, another sentence on a closing page. The drums are beating like a frantic heart, tearing the quiet of the night apart. But in the roar I find your steady gaze, a steady beacon through the murky haze. We reached the venue as the sun went down, the brightest fever in this dying town. You helped me tune the strings with trembling hands, obeying all the mortal soul's demands. The pressure mounts until we cannot breathe, where life and ending quietly interweave. But looking sideways at your tired face, I find a sanctuary in this place. When the final curtain starts its slow descent, we'll ledger out exactly what we spent, beyond the fear that grips the shivering bone. To travelers who refuse to go alone, the bond is forged beneath the crushing hand of forces that we barely understand. A light that glows when every fuse is blown, the greatest kindness that we've ever known. The garnet liquid dances in the crystal cage, staining the white lace of this midnight stage. Your shadow leans against the mahogany frame, a silent fever without a spoken name. The velvet heavy air begins to thicken, watch the pulse in your throat start to quicken. I trace the rim where your lipstick left a ghost, a bit of vintage of what we crave the most. A fermentation of 1,000 long desires, fed by the smoldering of underground fires. Spill a drop upon the pale satin sheets, where the hunger and the harvest finally meet. Drown the caution in a deep burgundy flood, racing through the blood. The cork is pulled and the bridge is burned, into this carnal geometry we have turned. Swallow the heat of the oak and the vine, entangled in a symmetry divine. Drown the caution in a deep burgundy flood. Feel the fermentation racing through the blood. The cork is pulled and the bridge is burned, into this carnal geometry we have turned. Swallow the heat of this oak and the vine, entangled in a symmetry divine. The bottle lies empty on your cold slate floor, while the lock turns slowly on a heavy door. Your skin tastes of sun-ripened thick skin, where the prayer ends and nerves begin. No longer human, just a frantic design, lost in the intoxication of the spine. Round the caution in a deep burgundy flood. Feel the temptation racing through the blood. The jerk is pulled and the bridge is burned, into this carnal geometry we have turned. Swallow the heat of the oak and the vine, entangled in a symmetry divine. In a deep burgundy flood. Feel the fermentation races through the blood. The cork is pulled and the bridge is burned, into this carnal geometry we have turned. Swallow the heat of the oak and the vine, entangled in a symmetry divine. Drown the caution in a deep burgundy flood. Feel the fermentation races through the blood. The cork is pulled and the bridge is burned, into this carnal geometry we have turned. Swallow the heat of the oak and the vine, entangled in a symmetry divine. Spills across the floor. Your shadow traces patterns on the oak. A crimson river settles in the crystal, waiting for the silence to be broke. The air is heavy with a ripe desire, taking like a fever in the rest. We burn the map and wander through the fire, caught within a labyrinth of mist. Sip the midnight from a shallow glass. Let the heady vintage numb the edge. Nothing is as permanent as grass, or the hollow pressure of a pledge. Your skin is like a desert after rain, salt and honey tangled in the seed, drinking down the beauty and the pain, until the bitter cycle is complete. Sip the midnight from a shallow glass. Let the heady vintage numb the edge. Nothing is as permanent as grass, or the hollow pressure of a pledge. Your skin is like a desert after rain, salt is complete. There is a bruised vibration in the dark. The cork has drawn a bullet from the wood. Every motion leaves a jagged mark, doing things we never thought we should. The buttons loosen like a falling wall. Gravity is hungry for the feast. We are only shadows standing tall, waiting for the sunrise in the east. The bottle bleeds a dark and heavy stain. The pulse is hammering against the bone. Wash away the logic of the sane and leave the two of us entirely alone. Sip the midnight from a shallow glass. Let the heady vintage numb the edge. Nothing is as permanent as brass or the hollow pressure of a pledge. Your skin is like the desert after rain. Salt and honey tangled in the sheet, taking down the beauty and the pain until the bitter cycle is complete. Sip the midnight from a shallow glass. Let the heady vintage numb the edge. Nothing is as permanent as grass or the hollow pressure of a pledge. Your skin is like a desert after rain. Salt and honey tangled in the sheet, drinking down the beauty and the pain until the bitter cycle is concrete. The velvet curtains eat the fading day. A crimson river paints the crystal tray. You shift like sand inside a glass so clear, watching shadows pass with growing fear. The cork is pulled with oak's deep heavy sigh. The silence wraps us as the time goes by. The label peels like skin, so old and thin. The ceremony waits to now begin. Fermented dreams drip slow upon the town. The final song has not yet been sung. Skin tastes like grapes that dance in dizzy swirl. A fever born before the midnight world. Drown your reason in the shallow tide. Let the vintage pull you deep inside. Bodies twist and grapevines tight embrace, lost within the dark and hazy space. A sudden spill on lace and brittle bone. A kingdom built of musk and muted tone. The spirit burns a path down to the core. No mercy found behind this frantic door. Your movement drags like waves against the shore, until the cup can hold no more. the midnight world. Drown your reason in a shallow tide. Let the vintage pull you deep inside. Bodies twist and grapevines tied in praise, lost within the dark and hazy space. The velvet curtains swallow up the day. A crimson liquid stains a crystal rim. You watch the golden bubbles drift away, while shadows dance upon your porcelain skin. The cork is pulled, a heavy breath escapes. The vintage here is bleeding on the tongue. We find our truth in fermented grapes, before the midnight bells have finally rung. Oh, pour another glass of liquid fire to quench the fever burning in the bone. The fragrance of a dangerous desire, in every drop the seeds of grace are sown. Your silhouette is etched in deep maroon, a dizzy spell that spins the room around. Under the influence of a gibbous moon, we are the only ones who can't be found. The cellar door is locked against the cold. The barrel's heart is pressed against the oak. A story of the senses yet untold is written in the ring of purple smoke. Forget the morning and its biting light. The clarity of dawn is far too fast. We'll drown the ticking seconds of the night in a bottle that was never meant to last. Your fingertips map out the silver glass. A slow vibration hums beneath her breath. The silent hours watch the seasons pass, teasing the line between a life and death. There is a magnetism in the scent of aged wood and berries crushed to ink. The heavy air is filled with what we meant, but never found the courage once to think. I pour another glass of liquid fire to quench the fever burning in the bone. The fragrance of a dangerous desire, in every drop the seeds of grace are sown. Your silhouette is etched in deep maroon, a dizzy spell that spins the room around. Under the influence of a gibbous moon, we are the only ones who can't be found. Oh, pour another glass of liquid fire to quench the fever burning in the bone. The fragrance of a dangerous desire, in every drop the seeds of grace are sown. Your silhouette is etched in deep maroon, a dizzy spell that spins the room around. Under the influence of a gibbous moon, we are the only ones who can't be found. Oh, pour another glass of liquid fire to quench the fever burning in the bone. The fragrance of a dangerous desire. In every drop the seeds of grave are sown. The sidewalk flows with nameless faces moving fast, but I am anchored to a shadow that won't pass. 1,000 shoulders brush against my heavy coat, yet I am drifting like a solitary boat. Though eyes meet mine amidst this grey concrete parade, just a quiet ghost within the loud masquerade. There's hollow silence in the center of the roar, searching for a key inside a locked and bolted door. From the salt spray stinging on the empty northern sand to the cold white tiles where the subway sleepers stand. It is a heavy kind of freedom that I keep, a secret longing while the busy city sleeps. Down where the fluorescent light begins to hum, the hollow ringing of a beat without a drum. Footsteps trailing through the damp underground air, asking questions to a wall that isn't there. The salt is calling from the shoreline far away, where the tide washes the wreckage of the day. The spray is cold and the wind is blowing hard, a lonely player with a losing broken card. The crowd is thick but the path is clear for none, walking through the dark to find a faded sun. There's hollow silence in the center of the roar, searching for a key inside a locked and bolted door. From a salt spray standing on the empty northern sand to the cold white tiles where the subway sleepers stand. It is a heavy kind of freedom that I keep, a secret longing while the busy city sleeps. The playground swing sits idle in the tall weeds, where we used to jump before the knees would bleed. Those wooden blocks and the kingdoms we built are buried under layers of suburban sin. The sandbox is a grave for plastic soldiers now, tracing the lines across my aging brow. We swore that summer would never find an end, a pocket full of marbles and a loyal friend. But the calendar flipped with a heavy sound, and the house we loved was leveled to the ground. Now I'm staring at the place where the porch used to be, searching for the ghost that looks just like me. It's been a year since you walked out that screen door, leaving your shadow on the scuffed up kitchen floor. The sky turned to bruised and heavy shade of slate, crashing down on the garden and the rusty gate. I'm standing where the pavement meets the rising tide, but nowhere left for a broken heart to hide. The rain doesn't wash the memory from the street, it only makes the bitter smell of asphalt sweet. I found a photograph tucked inside a dusty book of the way your laughter used to have a jagged hook. It pulls me back to creek where the crawfish ran, long before I tried to be a hollow man. The clock on the wall has a stutter in its beat, marking a day when our ending was complete. I'm counting the drops as they shatter on the glass, waiting for the ghosts of our younger lives to pass. It's been a year since you walked out that screen door, leaving your shadow on the scuffed up kitchen floor. The sky turned to bruise and every shade of slate, crashing down on the garden and the rusty gate. I'm standing where the pavement meets the rising tide, with nowhere left for a broken heart to hide.
It's been a year since you walked out that screen door, leaving your shadow on the scuffed up kitchen floor. The sky turned to bruised and heavy shade of slate, crashing down on the garden and the rusty gate. I'm standing where the pavement meets the rising tide, with nowhere left for a broken heart to hide.
The stage lights dim to a ghost of gold, the empty chairs tell what was never told. Your perfume lingers like a faded vow, in a room where silence is shouting now. I reach for the hand that slipped away, in the hollow space where the horn would play. The velvet curtains are heavy and cold, the story of us is getting old. Give me a breath of the midnight air, while the shadows dance in your empty chair. The melodies we salvage from the rain are washing the dust from a hidden stain. Let the friction of the world dissolve, while the spinning planets slowly revolve. In the quiet after the final chord, I am laying down my heavy sword. We traded our diamonds for a piece of glass, watching the seasons and the hours pass. The piano bench is a lonely key, where I sail alone on a soundless sea. I remember the laughter in the second row before the tide began to ebb and flow. Now the cigarettes are burned to the tip, and the cup has slipped from my shaking lip. Give me a breath of the midnight air while the shadows dance in your empty chair. The melodies we salvage from the rain are washing the dust from my hidden stain. Let the friction of the world dissolve while the spinning planets slowly revolve. In the quiet after the final chord, I am laying down my heavy sword. The clock on the wall has lost its gears, counting out the distance of the years. Do not ask me where the feeling went. It was borrowed time and it all got spent. Like a telegram that was never sent, or a hollow tent where the circuits went. Give me a breath of midnight air while the shadows dance in your empty chair. The melodies we salvage from the rain are washing the dust from my hidden stain. Let the friction of the world dissolve while the spinning planets slowly revolve. In the quiet after the final chord, I am laying down my heavy sword. Give me a breath of the midnight air while the shadows dance in your empty chair. The melodies we salvage from the rain are washing the dust from my hidden stain. Let the friction of the world dissolve while the spinning planets slowly revolve. In the quiet after the final chord, I am laying down my heavy sword. The sliding doors are closing on the ghosts of midday. A rattling cage of steel down a hollowed out vein. The fluorescent hum flickers against the scratch glass as we settle into rows like tall winter grass. I am reading the headlines on a crumpled news sheet while the man in the corner taps his heavy black feet. There is a woman with a suitcase full of velvet cloth, staring at the map like a bewildered moth. The reflection of the tunnel is a blur of gray stone. Every passenger here is essentially alone. The brakes give a shriek like a bird out of breath in this underground post between life and cold death. The dark of the dirt, carrying the laughter and the weight of the hurt. No one is speaking and no one is known, just seeds in the wind that the subway has blown. Yeah, the iron is cold and the transit is long, but even the silence sounds like a song. A teenager leans with his head on the frame, engraving a heart and a nameless girl's name. The momentum swings us to the left and the right in this long silver tube that is chasing the light. A businessman sighs and adjusts his blue tie. Watching the stations of the city crawl by. 2 stops to the river where the tracks start to bend. I wonder if this journey will ever quiet end. The air is a mixture of damp, wool and rain, filtered through the lungs of this electrical train. An old lady clutches a basket of bread with a halo of copper around about head. The sparks fly behind us in a spray of bright heat. The pavement is miles above our tired feet. We are deep beneath belly where the shadows all play, running from the glare of the wide open day. And the wheels keep on burning through the dark of the dirt, carrying the laughter and the weight of the hurt. No one is speaking and no one is known, just seeds in the wind that the subway has blown. Yeah, the iron is cold and the frenzy is long, but even the silence sounds like a song. And the iron is cold and the transit is late, but even the silence sounds like a song. And the wheels keep on grinding through the dark of the dirt, carrying the laughter and the weight of the hurt. The subway has blown. Yeah, the iron is cold and transit is long, but even the silence sounds like a song. The tiny scratch upon the record plates, a chipped cup where morning likes to wait. I watch the dust dance in the sunlit beam, small mercies floating in a silver stream. The kettle sings with jagged melody. The shadow grows upon the window's lee. I count the pulses in my restless wrist, a list of moments that I must have missed. Sand is slipping through the narrow glass, watching golden minutes fade so fast. The weight of air is pressing on my chest until my beating heart stands time's last test. The clock is swinging like a heavy blade, while amber light begins to slowly fade. The seconds tighten like a silver wire to save the spark before the flames expire. A single button lying on the floor, the sound of latching up the heavy door. I hold the silence like a fragile glass and pay the winter clouds go quickly past. A patch of green where city stones are cold, the distant ringing of a phone foretold. I feel the chase beneath the quiet bar, a race to find the light within the dark. The clock is swinging like a heavy blade, while amber light begin to slowly fade. The seconds tighten like a silver wire to save the spark before the flames expire. The clock is swinging like a heavy blade, while amber light begins to slowly fade. The seconds tighten like a silver wire to save the spark before the flames expire. The woods crunch, growl, hear the broken glass, watching shiny fenders as they swiftly pass. A canopy of gray in textured stone, a place to feel together yet alone. The river whispers like a choir undone, feeding on the ashes of a setting sun. No eyes look down from rolling wheels above, they never learn to speak in tongues of love. Concrete pillars push the sky away, cold shadows dance where heavy waters play. The world flies by on rails of steel so high, while sun forgets to shine down from the sky. We find our shelter in the dusty deep, where all the city's weary secrets sleep. All posters peel for walls that softly weep, waiting for the autumn rains to creep. There stands a grace and staying firm and still, against the tide of mankind's restless will. The rusted girders frame our narrow sight, counting seconds by the overhead flight. Our sinking feet in river mud embrace the quiet rhythm of this hidden place. Concrete pillars push the sigh away, cold shadows dance where heavy waters skate. The world flies by on rails of steel so high, while sun forgets to shine down from the sky. We find our shelter in the dusty deeps, where all the city's ways secrets sleep. Push the sigh away, cold shadows dance where heavy waters play. The world flies by on rails of steel so high,
while sun forgets to shine down from the sky. We'll find our shelter in the dusty deep, where all the city's weary secrets sleep.
The asphalt cracked beneath the leaden sky, where silver towers marked the hungry line. I watched the gavel fall upon the weak, while gold-leaf tongues found every word to speak. The balance tilted on a rusted hinge, a kingdom built upon a selfish binge. You stood there shivering in the winter rain, a ghost of someone spared from all the pain. The years that etched a map upon your face, a quiet witness to this freezing place. We shared a curse to break beside the wall, and watched the mighty shadows start to crawl. The scales are broken in the temple hall, the heavy timber waits for us to fall. But in the wreckage of the promised land, I finally reached to touch your weary hand. A flicker breathing in the frozen dark, a sudden flame from just a single spark. They trade our heavy toil for polished stone, and build their altars on our very bones. But silence cannot shroud the bitter truth that withered in the gardens of our youth. The day is breaking through the iron gate to tilt the crushing burden of our fate. Like a dying hope as we traverse this steep and jagged slope. The laws were written with a hollow quill to bend the valley to the master's will. But looking in your eyes, I find the way to survive the closing of another day. No longer strangers in the surging crowd, though every head is beaten. The architecture of the grand deceit is crumbling now beneath our moving feet. We walk together past the marble doors toward a horizon that is truly yours. The scales are broken in the temple hall, the heavy timber waits for us to fall. But in the wreckage of a promised land, I finally reached to touch your weary hand. A flicker breathing in the frozen dark, a sudden flame come just a single spark. The violet shadow spills across the velvet floor, tracing lines your silk dress never meant to hide. A heavy glass sits between us like an open door, waiting for the rush of what we hold inside. The vintage amber catches light within your eyes. The cork is pulled and silence starts to break. No more room for questions or for pale disguise, just the gravity of every breath we take. The liquid fire moves slowly down your throat, a crimson map of everywhere we go. The loose threads of the day begin to float away into the heat of what we know. This is the crash of the grape and the bone, a deep intoxication we can call our own. Beyond the holy and the wreckage of the night, we are moving blinded by the inner light. It is the pull of the blood and the vine, the holy communion of your skin and mine, drowning in the essence that we cannot name. Two shadows leaping in a single flame. You tilt your head and let the copper tresses fall, while the label peels away from the empty flask. There is no judgment written on the chamber wall, and there is nothing left for either us to ask. The scent of oak and summer rain is in the air, mingled with the salt that rises from your neck, a tangled web of wild and unconditioned prayer, building up a debt that we will never check. The liquid fire moves slowly down your throat, a crimson map of everywhere we go. The loose threads of the day begin to float away into the heat of what we know. This is the curse of the grape and the bone, a deep intoxication we can call our own. Beyond the holy and the wreckage of the night, we are moving blinded by the inner light. It is the pull of the blood and the vine, the holy communion of your kin and mine, drowning in the essence that we cannot name. Two shadows leaping in a single flame. This is the crush of the grape and the bone, a deep intoxication we can call our own. Beyond the holy and the wreckage of the night, we are moving blinded by the inner light. It is the pull of the blood and the vine, the whole the union of your skin and mine, drowning in the essence that we cannot name. Two shadows leaping in a single flame. Spills across the velvet floor, tracing the curve of a heavy old door. You tilt the glass with a slow hand as hours dissolve like grains of sand. The cork is pulled and the secret is out. Deep ruby warmth is what it's all about. A sudden weight in the stillness of air, the way the shadows settle in your hair. This intoxication knows no final name. A vintage pulse fueling a quiet flame. We drown the logic in a crimson tide, with nowhere left for the heart to hide. One touch is the gravity we cannot fight. In the heavy perfume of the deepening night. The labels fade and the bottle runs dry. Under the vigil of a white purple sky. No more pretension or filters to wear, just the raw voltage found in a spare. Silk panels sliding against the warm skin. A silent confession where the roses begin. Your breath is a vintage that goes to my head, leaving the words we survived on unsaid. Stained lips mimic the bruise of a plum. To the beat of a fever we both have become. The lace is a barrier too thin to remain, dissolving away like soft summer rain. The scent of the cellar, the glow of the spark, two bodies carving a path through the dark. A slow motion hunger that refuses to sleep, a promise the morning will struggle to keep. This intoxication knows no final name. A vintage pulse fueling a quiet flame. We drown the logic in a crimson tide, with nowhere left for the arm to hide. One touch is the gravity we cannot fight. In the heavy perfume of the deepening night. The velvet curtains hang heavy by the door, where shadows dance upon the polished floor. A ruby liquid swirling in the light, to mark the passing of the velvet night. You tilt your head and let the silence flow, with secrets only midnight comes to know. This heady vintage burns a crimson flame, while every wall we build begins to wane. The perfume of the grape and your embrace unlocks the dreams we never dared to chase. A reckless pull that brings our souls so near, until the only truth is crystal clear. We trace the patterns of a fleeting rhyme, the gentle curves that steal away the time. No need for hollow words or empty sound where magic lingers in the air around. The balance shifts with every sip we take, until we cross the line we cannot make. The air is thick with all we left unsaid, a tapestry of silver wine and red. The pull of gravity has lost its way as reasons fade like shadows into gray. This hitty vintage burns a crimson flame, while every wall we build begins to wane. The perfume of a grape and your embrace unlocks the dreams we never dared to chase, a reckless pull that brings our souls so near, until the only truth is crystal clear. A ruby stain upon the linen sheet, a heavy bouquet rising in the heat. You trace the outline of a glass undone before the morning conquers everyone. The cork is pulled, abandoned on the floor. I stop counting footsteps at your door. Your silhouette is carved in velvet light, a slow vibration through the veins of night. The cellar air is thick with aged desire, two shadows feeding an unspoken fire. The vintage pours until the senses blur. You either pulse the deep and sudden stir. This intoxication found a place to rest beneath the hollow of your rising chest. One sip of you and logic falls away. The rich is harvest in the disarray. Love is the vintage pressed from every vein, the only nectar that can dull the pain. A heady fever captured in the flask, the only answer that I dare to ask. The cellar door is locked against the cold, a secret story that has not been told. the ceiling, let the liquid run until the battle for the heart is won. Sweat and sugar clinging to the skin. This is where the holy sins begin. The bottle mirrors back your hungry eyes. The way the darkness fits you like a guide. No longer thirsty for a lesser draft. I drown within the cradle of your crowd. The dregs are bitter, but the first is sweet. The transformation is at last complete. The room is tilting on a spinning axis. The gravity of grace and soft relaxes. We spill the hours like a wasted prize, reflected in the fever of your eyes. This intoxication found a place to rest beneath the hollow of your rising chest. One sip of you and logic falls away. The richest harvest in the disarray. Love is the vintage pressed from every vein, the only nectar that can dull the pain. A heady fever captured in our last, the only answer that I dare to ask.
The wooden desk holds steady weight underneath the fluorescent glare of fate. Eyes stare into the hollow lens where the boundary of the physical ends. The chalkboard layers have all been cleared, replacing everything we once had feared. My shoulders square against the shifting tide, with the quiet burning deep inside. I tap the keys and the pulses climb, a sudden fracture in the walls of time. The dusty aisles of the learning hall dissolve away as I stand tall. A grid of light begins to bloom, expanding past this narrow room. My vision settles on the glowing scene, walking upright through a conscious dream. I am the master of the coded deep, awake while all the ancient shadows sleep. No longer tethered to the heavy floor, I reach my hand through the open door. The static hum becomes a steady song that tells me exactly where I belong. Unyielding strength in a nameless play, finding my glory in the vastness of space. Equations shatter into beams of code, a story that has never yet been told. The wires are veins that feed the fire, lifting the spirit ever higher, higher than the ceilings made of stone, claiming a territory all my own. The metal heart begins to beat with the rhythm of a conquest complete. silence of the vacant row, watch the secret digital rivers flow. The bell might ring to signal the end, but the broken rules will never bend. I pack the books with a steady grip, preparing for the next long trip. The air is fresh and the path is wide, with a mountain of certainty inside. I am the master of the carded thief, awake while all the ancient shadows sleep. No longer tethered to the heavy floor, I reach my hand through the open door. The static hum becomes a steady song that tells me exactly where I belong. Unyielding strength in a nameless place, finding my glory in the vastness of space.
Draw the curtains, dim the light, bid the weary world good night. Wrap yourself in blue and gray, let the shadows drift away. A lullaby of silk and sand, holding tightly to your hand. Sleep until the morning dew, I'll be here to watch o'er you. A lullaby of silk and sand, holding tightly to your hand. Sleep until the morning dew, I'll be here to watch o'er you. Not explicitly stated, assumed to be in a traditionate love jazz give allows Asian. It's the fire I'm the crazy for you. This up to somehow crazy for you. But as a pace for heartbeat, what say it? Ask go fence, not hot. Ask go fence, all flakes for I sit to my dark and blue you.
flickers over the tile. Folded jerseys piled in a lonely stack. Laces pulled tight against the silence. Tension hangs heavy on a wooden bench. Every heartbeat marks a jagged count. Steam rises from the cooling grates. We are huddled within these cinder blocks, facing the threshold of the roar outside. Hold your breath until the air turns cold. The shadows lengthen on a concrete floor. No one knows where the gravel leads, across the lines where the map dissolves. We are leaning into the great quiet, waiting for the signal to finally break. The ghost of a chance is all we carry towards the turn of the hidden way. The locker door swings on a rusted hinge. Metallic echoes of what we used to be. Left our names on the dusty ledge. Step out from the scent of old leather. The tunnel ahead is a narrow throat, swallowing the sun at the very edge. Footprints vanish in the shifting dirt. The brush is thick where the trail begins. Hold your breath until the air turns gold. The shadows lengthen on the concrete floor. No one knows where the gravel leads, across the lines where the map dissolves. We are leaning into the great quiet, waiting for the signal to finally break. The ghost of a chance is all we carry towards the turn of the hidden way. Hold your breath until the air turns gold. The shadows lengthen on the concrete floor. No one knows where the gravel leads, across the lines where the map dissolves. We are leaning into the great quiet, waiting for the signal to finally break. The ghost of a chance is all we carry towards return of the hidden way. Hold your breath until the air turns gold. The shadows lengthen on the concrete floor. No one knows where the gravel leads, across the lines where the map dissolves. We are leaning into the great quiet, waiting for the signal to finally break. The ghost of a chance is all we carry towards the turn of the hidden way. The nurse settles on a heavy velvet door. I find the handle just as cold as before. Same one floorboards beneath my weary soles, counting up the gaps and the empty holes. The air is thick with a familiar scent of every hour we borrowed and spent. Back in the corner where the shadow stays, tracing the ghosts of our younger days. My fingers tremble near the faders and dials, walking through the forest of forgotten files. The silence screams louder than a feedback hum, waiting for the clarity that refuses to come. The window to the booth is a cloudy eye, watching the flickering of a dying light. I pull the chair to the center of the room, wrapped in the heavy weight of the gloom. This sanctuary turns into a narrow cage. The ink is bleeding through the yellow page. I am searching for the frequency of peace, begging for the inner noise to finally cease. In this hollow hole where the reels used to spin, I am trapped by the walls closing in. The stillness is heavy and the spirit is thin, waiting for the real work to begin. The ceiling is a map of a different sky, where the logic of the world goes to die. A vast expanse where the giants collide, and the secrets of the pulse try to hide. It is a landscape built of wire and bone, where I am never truly standing alone. Yet the distance between the thought and the word is the loneliest sound that I ever heard. I stare at the glass until my vision blurs, waiting for the ghost of a melody that stirs. But the static is a wall I cannot climb, frozen in a pocket of stolen time. The old lamp is dark like a resting heart, before the frantic world pulls it apart. I linger in the doorway of the used to be, while the vision remains out of reach for me. The magnetic tape holds 1,000 lies, under the gaze of the watchful eyes. Every vibration is a debt to pay, in the gloom of this decaying day. The sanctuary turns into a narrow cage. The ink is bleeding through the yellow page. I am searching for the frequency of peace, begging for the inner noise to finally space. In this hollow hole where the reels used to spin, I am trapped by the walls closing in. The stillness is heavy and the spirit is thin, waiting for the real work to begin. This sanctuary turns into a narrow cage. The ink is bleeding through the yellow page. I am searching for the frequency of peace, begging for the inner noise to finally cease. In this hollow hole where the reels used to stood, I am trapped by the walls closing in. The stillness is heavy and the spirit